The Blue Eye, Siri Sifri Kalter. In southern Albania is a spring whose cobalt pool drops into a cavern over 50 meters deep, forming an almost bottomless electric blue whirl that is exceptionally rare worldwide. Do you know the Blue Eye's channeling may connect underground to distant lakes and rivers, and scientists suspect its steady icy flow preserves centuries of climate and biological history in its depths. Siri e Kalter, Albania's Blue Eye, is one of the world's rare karst springs where water erupts from a cavern in a column of impossible cobalt. Do you know that divers and scientists have only mapped a sliver of its submerged caves, leaving the true depth and source a stubborn mystery? When sunlight strikes the pool, suspended minerals scatter light into a spectral burst that makes the water seem to glow from within, rather than simply mirror the skin. The surface remains glass-cold year-round, fed by underground flows that sustain species adapted to constant chill and clarity. Brown trout and small endemic invertebrates drift between limestone ledges, visible as ephemeral shapes in the brilliant blue, while mosses cling to submerged rock faces beyond reach. Local elders tell of submerged tunnels and silver fish vanishing into the dark, tales that mix folklore with scientific curiosity. Approaching the Blue Eye, the forest corridor narrows, and the ordinary green suddenly gives way to electric hues at the pool's rim. The sound changes too, a muffled, powerful breathing as the spring exhales groundwater back into the landscape. Protected as part of a fragile karst system, the site is both magnet and mirror. It draws visitors while revealing how delicate subterranean hydrology can be. Conservationists warn that unchecked tourism and upstream water use could dull the color and alter flows in ways that are difficult to reverse. From the Blue Eye, cold currents thread toward lower valleys, joining limestone streams and cave passages that create an underground network across the region. That connectivity means impacts here ripple outward. Pollution or diversion at the spring can affect rivers, farms, and communities downstream. Photographers and scientists find themselves learning the same lesson: beauty that demands restraint, mystery that invites exploration. Every shaft of light and every ripple is a trace of ancient water cycling through rock for millennia before finding this sudden, luminous exit. When you leave the Blue Eye, the landscape subtly shifts toward olive terraces and coastal roads, a short transit from an underground cobalt world to Albania's sunlit shores. Scientists continue to test isotopes and map conduits with remote sensors, hoping to reveal where the Blue Eye's waters originate and how old they truly are. Until that map is complete, the Blue Eye remains both scientific riddle and visceral experience, a pocket of cold, lucid blue tucked into Albania's warm mosaic. It whispers an invitation. Inspect carefully, tread lightly, and follow the water's trace to discover the next secret it connects to. At Llogara Pass, Albania harbors one of the planet's rarest ecological thresholds, where sub-Mediterranean maquis collides with high-altitude pine forests along a cliffed spine overlooking the Ionian Sea. Do you know that the winds funneling through Llogara Pass create microclimates where snow can linger above olive groves, just 20 kilometers from the coast? From the crest, roads curve like ribbons along the Kiraunian Mountains, dropping quickly toward the glittering bays of the Albanian Riviera. Local shepherds still use ancient paths here, guiding flocks between high summer pastures and lower winter grazing near Dhermi and Himara. Those same tracks lead to hidden viewpoints where the eye can follow the shore south to Porto Palermo and beyond to Corfu on a clear day. The strategic geography made Llogara a natural lookout for empires and resistance movements. Remnants of stone walls and wartime relics pepper the slopes. But the modern pull is ecological and scenic, as motorcyclists, hikers, and paragliders come to ride thermals that sweep up from the sea. Photographers come for the light that slants along the spine at dusk, flattening distance and painting terraces, villages, and water into a single luminous plane. Botanists come for rare orchids and endemic herbs that find niches in limestone crags unreachable elsewhere on the peninsula. Conservationists warn that development pressures along the Riviera could erode these fragile ecosystems unless careful planning holds. Still, when you stand at Llogara's rim and inhale the sharp pine and salt air, you understand why this pass remains a crossroads of nature and history. Every descent from the pass is a narrative. Mountains giving way to olive terraces, villages folding into bays, and history unspooling toward the sea. It is here that Albania's dramatic transitions, rock to reef, cliff to cove, are most evident and most unforgettable for those who witness them. If the Cerronian ridge is a spine, Llogara is its vertebra, rigid, vital, and perfectly positioned between heights and horizon. To travel, it is to read Albania's geography like a living map, where every turn promises another secret waiting to be followed south along the coast. Theth National Park harbors one of Europe's few remaining contiguous, high-altitude beech forests and glacial cirques that nurture endemic alpine plants and cold-adapted communities unique to the Balkans. Do you know that some tiny pockets above 1,100 meters still host orchids and gentians that are relics of the last ice age, thriving in microclimates shielded by limestone ridges? Theth village sits in a narrow valley, beneath knife-edged karst peaks, its stone houses and defensive kula towers, rising from terraced fields carved by generations of shepherds. Grunus waterfall tumbles into a crystalline basin near the village, its seasonal rhythm, revealing karst channels that carry water out of sight and reappear as springs far downstream. A single ancient mule track climbs over the Valbona Pass to link Theth with Valbona Valley. The trail itself a living corridor of wildlife, memory, and mountain trade. On the high ridges, hikers cross limestone pavements, scattered snow patches, and wide alpine meadows where flocks graze beside low stone enclosures. Above the meadows, golden eagles and red-billed choughs wheel, while chamois pick narrow ledges and foxes move ghost-like between boulders. Marmots whistle from hidden burrows, and in spring, the slopes become a patchwork of yellow and purple from rare gentians and fragrant wild thyme. Inside the village, centuries of oral history and the mountain code known as the Kanun shape the Kula Towers, each building a testament to family resilience and alpine law. Local guest houses keep traditional cuisine alive. Cheeses, hearty stews, and fresh cornbread are served after long days on the trail. Conservation groups and local guides now work with villagers to protect pastures while gently opening Theth to curious travelers seeking authentic mountain experience. This delicate stewardship has kept night skies dark and streams clear, showing how careful care can preserve a wild valley's character. From summit ridgelines, the panorama stretches along the Proclitije spine, where Theth's limestone teeth point toward glaciers and deep valleys that still feel largely untouched. Follow those ridges and you can trace a natural route from remote Theth to the deeper labyrinths of the Albanian Alps, each valley folding into the next and offering a new chapter in stone and scan. Along the Ionian shore, Albania's Dhermi beach is one of the Mediterranean's rare shores where sheer limestone cliffs drop into deep sapphire waters, mere meters from pebble strands. Do you know Dhermi Beach hides a network of shallow caves and submerged terraces that shelter species found nowhere else along this coast? From the shoreline, Colors shift instantly from pale turquoise to inky blue, mapping sudden underwater ravines carved over millennia and by abrupt storms. Local fishermen still follow old currents that can turn placid bays into playful, swirling eddies within minutes. Afternoons bring gusts from the Llogara ridge that sculpt waves into glassy lanes perfect for windsurfers and photographers chasing sharp reflections. At sunset, the cliffs flare with metallic hues, framing whitewashed houses that seem stacked like terraces above the sea. Hidden stone terraces cling to narrow soils where olives and wild herbs persist, an emblem of human persistence on a fragile coast. A Byzantine chapel and ancient cisterns dot the paths, testifying to centuries of people adapting to this dramatic shoreline. Nights here remain startlingly dark. The Milky Way spills over the water, and distant lights from passing boats punctuate the black. Locals gather by small fires to trade stories of shipwrecks and coves that only appear at the lowest tides. The beach alternates between broad pebble strands and intimate inlets, each offering different textures, currents, and secret snorkeling pockets. Goats pick footholds on near vertical cliffs, while migratory birds use the headlands as brief waypoints across vast skies. From Dhermi, a road rises toward Llogara, connecting serene coves to panoramic heights that reveal how the coast and mountains converse, and reveals how seasonal winds and storms reshape both land and sea. Keep watching as we climb that ridge to see how wind, rock, and sea have carved the dramatic geography you just met, and to meet the mountain villages that guard these ancient paths. Hidden within the Balkans lies Lake Ohrid, one of Europe's oldest and deepest lakes, hosting species found nowhere else on Earth. Do you know Lake Ohrid's ancient waters create microclimates that helped preserve stone-built towns like Gjirokastër for centuries? Perched on a limestone slope, Gjirokastër is a living museum of stone houses crowned with slate roofs. Its Ottoman-era Bastide layout, narrow cobblestone alleys and tiered houses create a fortress town, unlike any other in Europe. Walk past the wooden balconies, and you'll notice defensive towers that double as family treasuries and weatherproof attics. The town's skyline is dominated by a stone citadel whose ramparts have watched empires rise and fall for over 5 centuries. Inside the castle, mortar-yellowed walls conceal Ottoman-era prisons, ethnographic exhibits, and a rarely told story of merchant routes to the Ionian Sea. From those battlements, you can see terraced orchards slipping into the Drino Valley and the distant shimmer of olive groves. Not far from the bazaar, a small house museum preserves the belongings of a novelist who chronicled Albania's 20th century transformations. Visitors often trace his footsteps down to the river terraces where shepherds still braid stories into the wool they sell. Gjirokastër's UNESCO designation protects both architecture and an intricate social fabric that resists modernization's blunt strokes. Yet the town thrives because locals adapt old stones into guest houses, workshops, and communal kitchens that welcome curious travelers. Follow the main street downhill, and the landscape unfolds toward olive-scented valleys, linking Gjirokastër to the coast and beyond. In that connection, this stone-owned town becomes a hinge between inland traditions and the salt-tinged histories of Mediterranean ports. To understand Albania's layered identity, begin in Gjirokastër, where stone and story fuse into an unexpectedly intimate heritage. Here, every doorway is a chapter, every slate roof a page, and each visit reopens the book for another generation. Perched where limestone cliffs meet the meandering Osum River, Berat cradles a rare karst landscape in Albania, found in only a handful of places on Earth. Do you know that the Osum's seasonal floods sculpt marble-white walls near Berat, revealing fossilized river terraces that scientists still study? But Berat's headline is not only geology. It's a living museum of Ottoman urbanism, where white Ottoman houses stack like tiles on a steep hill. The nickname City of a Thousand Windows isn't poetic flourish. It's an architectural rhythm where every facade is both home and lookout. Walk through the Mangalam Quarter, and the windows gaze down across red-tiled roofs toward the tranquil sweep of the Osum. From there, the medieval citadel perches above, its stone houses and churches preserving frescoes and manuscripts that survived centuries of emphase and earthquake. Berat's churches and mosques sit side by side, a rare urban tapestry of faith and coexistence that predates many modern borders. Artifacts in the Onufri Museum inside the castle reveal gilded icons and pigments so vivid they rewrite assumptions about Balkan medieval art. At dusk, the 1,000 windows glow, and the town becomes a luminous map of memory, each pane hinting at stories kept behind shuttered doors. To understand Berat is to follow those stories from river to citadel, from fresco to filigree, and to see how nature and culture have shaped one another here. Nearby villagers still harvest honey and chestnuts on slopes that ancient inhabitants depended on, linking modern plates to prehistoric diets. Archaeological finds on surrounding terraces show that habitation here stretches back millennia, making Berat not just a snapshot, but a palimpsest of human resilience. Walking from the castle gates down to the river, you pass workshops where stories are told as grout, and every stone seems to record a negotiation between survival and beauty. This is why UNESCO inscribed Berat. It's a rare place where geology, architecture, and living traditions converge into a single, readable landscape. And when you leave, the Osum's carved cliffs remain in view, a reminder that the town's beauty is inseparable from the deep, slow work of rivers and time. Berat doesn't demand to be preserved as a relic. It insists on being experienced, visited, and allowed to continue its centuries-long conversation with the land. Perched on a rocky promontory above the confluence of the Buna and Drin rivers, Rozafa Castle crowns the city of Shkodër with a panorama unique in the Balkans. Its stone walls have watched empires come and go, preserving a legend so visceral that even the stones seem to remember the sacrifice of a mother who was walled into the fortress. Archaeological layers reveal Illyrian, Roman, Byzantine, and Ottoman traces, making Rozafa not just a single fortress, but a living palimpsest of southeastern European history. Walk its ramparts, and you can trace the strategic logic that for centuries controlled river trade and guarded the fertile plains below. Locals still point to the three towers named after the brothers who quarried the stone, and to the tiny opening where the newborn child was supposedly fed milk through a tunnel. Stories vary, but every version underscores an almost impossible mixture of love, pragmatism, and the brutal necessities of medieval defense. From the highest parapet, the view sweeps to the Albanian Alps to the east and the shifting waters of Lake Shkodër to the west, a reminder why control of Rozafa meant control of these lands. Beneath the visible walls, excavations have uncovered pottery, coins, and inscriptions that rewrite small chapters of Balkan trade networks and cultural exchange. Each artifact connects Rozafa to marketplaces from the Adriatic to the interior, revealing how people, goods, and ideas flowed through this crossroads. Yet the fortress is not frozen in stone. Seasonal festivals, pilgrimages to the little chapel inside, and whispered ghost stories make it a living site of memory. Visitors often arrive expecting ruins and leave surprised by the intimacy of the place and the complex human drama embedded in its stones. In the next chapter, we follow those river routes downstream, from Rozafa's watchful heights toward the Ottoman-era mosques and Venetian squares that nod to the same imperial rhythms. Tracing that path lets us see how one fortress both shaped and was shaped by the shifting currents of power, faith, and commerce across Albania. Ksamil Islands are one of the only places on Earth where marine seagrass meadows and limestone islets combine to create water so transparently turquoise that scientists use it as a benchmark for Mediterranean clarity. Do you know Ksamil Islands hide submerged ruins and ancient shipwreck fragments that suggest the coastline was a bustling maritime crossroads long before most European ports were founded? From the tumbled ruins of nearby Butrint, sea breezes carry stories and species, connecting archaeological layers to living reefs in a single sweep of shoreline. Local fishermen still navigate by forgotten channels between tiny islets whose shapes change year to year as sand and currents rearrange this fragile archipelago. The islands are small, just specks of rock and sand, but each hosts microhabitats where rare endemic mollusks and migratory birds pause on routes rarely recorded elsewhere. Kayakers can slip through narrow straits and emerge into hidden coves, where the water drops in color from pale aquamarine to deep cerulean, as if pulling a curtain on a secret stage. In summer, the sea around Ksamil warms quickly, creating shallow thermal pockets that nurture juvenile fish species unseen along colder rocky coasts. To truly understand Ksamil, you have to think of coastline as conversation. Between sea and stone, human and creature, past and future, all spoken in turquoise tones. From Ksamil, the journey continues south along the Ionian shore, toward the dramatic Llogara Pass, where mountains drop into the same sea that sculpts these islets. What seems like a simple stretch of sand is actually a crossroads of geology and culture, and every wave here remembers both. Stay with us as we step from these turquoise framings into underwater caves and centuries-old harbors that reveal why Albania's coast is still one of Europe's best-kept secrets. The story of Ksamil is small in scale, but immense in implication. A fragile jewel that asks us to choose how we keep it for tomorrow. Koman Lake carves a narrow, fjord-like artery through Albania's northern mountains, its water tucked between cliffs that soar for hundreds of meters. The reservoir's glassy surface reflects sheer limestone and pine, where roads vanish into tunnels and villages cling to impossible ledges. Do you know Koman's famous ferry rides are not just transport, but an entire alpine odyssey that feels closer to Norway than the Balkans? Passengers drift past hairline waterfalls, hidden caves, and isolated shepherd huts as the boat threads the canyon like a slow-moving arrow. Built when engineers dammed the Drin River, Koman's waters pulse with the memory of drowned valleys and reclaimed routes of trade and travel. The hydroelectric dam below gives the lake its depth, but the human stories above, farmers, fishermen, and ferry captains, give it soul. On clear mornings, the cliffs throw back light in dizzying bands, turning ripples into liquid silver that guides the ferry through narrowing walls. By dusk, the same rock faces fold into purple silhouettes, and tiny hamlets reveal warm pinpricks of life against the vast dark. Every bend offers a new secret, an abandoned chapel tucked into a scree slope, a shepherd's flock crossing a natural causeway, an impossible tree rooted in crack. It teaches that Albania's drama isn't only in its peaks or beaches, but in the waterways that stitch remote places together. When you step off the ferry, the cliffs recede and new paths open. Some climb toward alpine pastures, others lead to sleepy river valleys, still waiting to be explored. Follow them, and you'll discover how the lake's deep hush passes into the roar of mountain streams and the chatter of villages beyond. Koman's fjord-like corridor is a reminder that some of the world's most cinematic landscapes can be found where human need met engineering, and beauty quietly followed. And if you think this is the end of the journey, remember that every bend on Koman promises another secret around the next cliff. The Cape of Rodon in Albania shelters one of Europe's last expanses of unbroken wild limestone cliffs that drop straight into the Adriatic. Do you know Cape of Rodon still preserves a medieval stronghold built by Skanderbeg and hidden sea caves where sailors once took refuge? Winds sculpt the headland into jagged ridges and secret coves, and the spray carries salt and history in equal measure. It is here that the land resists easy access, creating a raw corridor of habitat for nesting raptors and stubborn coastal plants. Walk the rim and you will find ruins of Rodoni Castle, stones stacked by hands, defending the coastline from Ottoman fleets. Below, tide-smoothed hollows open into shadowed caves that fishermen still whisper about when talking of lost anchors and shipwrecked tulls. The cliff faces change color with the day, pale limestone in morning, honey at noon, and copper at sunset, making every hour feel like a different peninsula. Trails that begin among thyme-scented scrub drop abruptly to pebbled bays, where the water is startlingly clear and cool. Birdsong here is not merely background. It's the map. Falcons, gulls, and warblers carving their territories against the wind. Explore the sheltered coves at low tide, and you'll discover tide pools teeming with creatures adapted to this sharp boundary of salt and rock. Walk farther, and the path widens into pastoral terraces that hint at how communities once eked out a living from the land and sea. Connecting to the mainland, small dirt tracks lead toward olive groves and the distant clamor of Dheres's port, reminding visitors that wilderness and civilization here are braided together. To stand on Rodon's edge is to feel the tug of history and the raw power of the Adriatic, and the more you look, the more stories reveal themselves, if you know where to look. In the coming minutes, we'll trace one of those stories, the castle built by Skanderbeg, a monastery's hush, and a shipwreck whose bones still whisper under the waves. Each element connects Rodon to the broader map of Albania's coastline, proving that this wild cape is both an endpoint and a doorway. Vjosa River in southern Albania remains one of Europe's last truly wild rivers, meandering unchained from mountain to sea. Do you know Vjosa's bends shift so dramatically that entire gravel islands appear and vanish within a single season? Its unusual bends carve braided channels and transient islands that rewrite the map with every flood. These shifting sands create habitats for rare birds, fish, and plants that depend on constant motion rather than stability. Along stretches of bank, pebbled shoals hold archaeological hints and pollen records that tell centuries of climate and human stories. Locals still remember when oxbows swallowed vineyards and then left behind fertile soil for new orchards the next year. For years, scientists and activists have fought to keep Vjosa free, arguing that its wild character is irreplaceable in Europe. Their success would mean preserving not just water, but a living laboratory of natural river processes that engineers rarely see in action. From above, Vjosa looks like a liquid braid, turquoise threads looping across pale gravel, punctuated by green willows and reed beds. Within those loops, otters slide, kingfishers flash, and migratory fish follow ancestral routes cut before any dam could stop them. Every ton of sediment Vjosa carries helps build the Adriatic shore and nourishes neighboring wetlands like the Narta Lagoon. Researchers travel from across Europe to study its natural flood pulses, rare in an era of tamed rivers. What they learn here informs floodplain restoration projects worldwide, offering a template for rewilding rivers elsewhere. Yet the river holds quieter secrets too, from fully endemic snails in isolated pools to legends of submerged stone bridges. In the next chapter, we trace one of those gravel arms upstream to a valley, where the view's mood changes overnight. There the mountain meltwaters tighten its twists, and the river sings a different song, one that shaped communities and borders for centuries. Follow me now as we follow a single bend upstream and discover how this unruly river stitches Albania's wild heart to its coastal edge. Perched above the green valleys, Krujë Castle crowns a limestone ridge and guards stories of resistance older than many European states. Its stone walls and narrow stairways sheltered Gjirokastër, Skanderbeg, during his decades-long defense against the Ottoman Empire. Inside the fortress sits the Skanderbeg Museum, where armor and letters seem to whisper battlefield plans. Outside the gates, the old bazaar has traded not only goods but legends, its wooden stalls a living link to medieval life. From the castle ramparts, you can see the Adriatic shimmer on the horizon, a rare vantage point, blending mountain fortification with coastal sightlines. This unusual intersection of rugged inland high ground and visible sea roads explains why Krujë became a strategic stronghold few other places matched. Walk its cobbled lanes, and you feel the city stitched into the stones. Mosques and churches, Ottoman-era houses and Albanian folk motifs braided together. Guides will point out hidden inscriptions, reused marbles, and arrow slits that reveal a patchwork of empires. Local artisans still produce the same filigree and embroidery patterns that once adorned the arms of local chieftains, their crafts displayed in the museum and bazaar alike. Each object carries dates and names that link personal family histories to the larger tale of resistance and survival. In spring, the surrounding hills explode with wildflowers, that once concealed lookout posts and offer modern hikers fragrant paths back into history. Winter brings low mists that swallow the lower town, making the castle seem to float, an image repeated in postcards and the folklore of the region. Visiting Krujë is an invitation to follow those postcards into the alleys, to taste kofte and baklava in siolsos that have fed soldiers and merchants for centuries. Every flavor, every overheard story, knits a chain between the fortress and Albania's coastal harbors, where goods and ideas flowed in and out. From the marble steps of Butrint to the turquoise sink of the Blue Eye, Albania folds ancient history and wild landscapes into one compact country. Throughout this journey, we traced coastal pine ridges, wandered Ottoman stone streets in Gjirokastër, and crossed high mountain passes where shepherds still follow centuries-old routes. We tasted coastal salt on the Albanian Riviera, watched sunsets over Ksamil's tiny islands, and listened to the silence of the Vjosa, Europe's last wild river. Each place bled into the next, the Llogara Pass spilling down into pebble beaches, and the ruins of Apollonia opening a doorway to Berat's white-faced homes. In the north, Theth and Valbona offered a different tempo, with limestone peaks and shepherd's towers standing guard over emerald valleys. Overhead, eagles trace the thermals as villagers keep alive customs that feel both stubborn and strangely contemporary. From Shkodër's Rozafa Castle to the ferries that ply Lake Koman, movement became a theme. Rivers that shape borders, roads that stitch mountain to sea. These are places where history is not confined to museums, but stacked into the very stones of homes and the patterns of daily life. If you thought this was merely a travelogue, consider how Albania challenges expectations. It preserves rare ecosystems, hides ancient cities beneath reeds, and presents a coastline that rivals many better-known shores. What remains is an invitation to slow down, to listen, and to let surprises rearrange your sense of place. So when you plan your next route, remember the small country that still keeps its secrets close and rewards the curious, with landscapes both strange and intimate.